Hi, I am Cy Rodriguez, and today I am here to talk with you about this being vegan for 5+ years now straight. And in talking about being vegan, I want to open up a conversation and really even just I want to get people to be thinking about these things and what's going on, especially right now, because it's a very interesting time. There's so much that I could talk about regarding just vegan versus carnivore. And that's kind of why I pulled this screen up here, because the vegan versus carnivore scene is like really, really big right now in the carnivore and vegan world. So that being said, I want to be really clear that it is my intention to tell you how my journey as a vegan has been, what I've learned without going on for 5 years telling you about it, because there's a lot of stuff that I've learned. Also to tell you how I've been feeling, to tell you what I've thought about whether I should stay vegan or not, to also point out what some of the arguments that are going on right now that are talking about, is a vegan diet healthy, or talking about basically, can you get any kind of health benefits at all from being vegan, period. And then really, what does it mean to be a vegan? Like, what is vegan versus plant-based? And I think some people are going to call me plant-based after this video, and that's okay with me. I'm also going to share with you my feelings towards animals and why I went vegan, and then more about why I've stayed vegan. And that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get right into it. And there's a lot that I could share with you. I'm just going to really try to break this down so you can see what's happened, what's changed, what's possible, and then I am going to conclude this video with a kind of an open-ended question, and that's what's next, which I don't know yet. But until further notice, I am going to continue eating a vegan diet and supporting that plant-based eating stance, but I also want to be very clear, and so I'm going to conclude there. Well, I'm concluding the video with, like, what's next, but when I say that I'm concluding, what I mean is that there's something more to add, and that is that I am not, this is why some of you might think of me as more plant-based right now. I have absolutely no problem with people who eat meat. And the reason that I don't have a problem with people that eat meat is because I have eaten meat before. And one of the questions that's always been in my mind is, a vegan diet meant for humans? And I know that that question has been answered by people over and over again. And you can even find opposite pole, conflicting debates about which one is true. Some people will tell you that your digestive tract and your teeth are perfect for being a vegan. Others will say that it's made to be an omnivore, and others will say that no, it's really meant for you to be a carnivore. And they all have these arguments and try to back them up with science, and that's where it gets really interesting, because you can find those studies and the support to create a good argument for yourself, no matter which kind of place you're in diet-wise. At least most, for these three positions, you could find arguments that we do good as carnivores, you could find arguments that we do good as vegans, you could find arguments that we're supposed to be omnivores. So for me, the thing that maybe might make people believe that I'm more of a plant-based guy is that I have said, if you could prove to me for sure that as a species, as a human animal, that our main life force energy was meant to come from eating animals, and that's just part of the circle of life, just like lions and cats are carnivorous, and dogs are mostly carnivorous, even though they eat some other things, and bears are omnivores. The question about what is our staple dietary food, like what was it that we thrived on the most? If you could prove it to me that it was animals, I'd probably just give up vegan completely and go straight into eating animals. And that doesn't mean that I don't care about animals. In fact, as a vegan, I will get into that in just a minute. But for now, let's just go back to how long I've been vegan. It's been 5 years or more, I should say. And I am obviously alive, and I have muscle. I mean, I do have muscle, and this is important for what we're going to talk about here. I do take some supplements. For example, I take a vitamin B12 supplement, which I didn't do for a long time, but I started doing because I just wanted to be sure that I was covering my bases, and it is known in the scientific world that a vegan diet does lack vitamin B12. So I would advise anybody to do that if they wanted to eat a vegan diet. And I don't think it's a high price to pay to be vegan at all. So that being said, we also, my family and I, we take a multivitamin that consists of, it's a food-based multivitamin. It's considered a raw food-based multivitamin, and it has all of your major vitamins and minerals in it in a supplemental amount. And it's a really good quality vitamin. I take it again for insurance purposes. So that is about the extent of the supplementation I do, minus a couple of once in a while things. In addition, I also have taken protein powder, and it's been primarily pea protein lately, but I've tried all kinds of vegan protein powders, and I've only done that for mostly just for the last couple of years on any consistent basis. And when I say consistent basis, we're talking on the days I work out, which is like 2 to 3 days a week. So on those days, I have a serving of protein. And it's very rare for me to have any kind of extra protein anytime outside of that. I also want to clarify that I don't take creatine, and I don't take any other kind of muscle building supplements at all, period. And you just have to look at me, because I am not a weak vegan. Now, there are weak and strong vegans, as well as weak and strong people that eat whatever other foods. So just because I'm not a weak vegan doesn't mean that it's an ideal diet. But that being said, I can honestly say that I perform very well as a vegan. I compete with people who are in my peer group that all eat meat. And all I'm going to say is that I don't have any trouble in that kind of competition at all. In fact, I do very well in that kind of competition. And again, I'm trying to be humble in saying the things that I'm saying, but I'm saying them just to make the point that if you're a vegan, or if you want to be a vegan, you can still perform well, you can still be strong, even though I don't know if it's optimal or ideal. And there are a lot of benefits that I've experienced as being vegan, and that is a feeling of lightness, a feeling of what I have believed for a long time to be a good mental state. And that's one of the things that I've brought up for question recently after viewing all of these carnivore people talking about vegans. And as a result, I've come to look at myself even more honestly, even though I really look at myself as honestly as possible, to just really see, on those days when my thoughts are not perfectly clear, or what I have something what maybe people call brain fog, is that the result of a vegan diet? And I'm not sure that it is, and I'm not sure that it isn't, but I do hear carnivores saying the same thing. So that being said, you can do well on a vegan diet, and it's not hard. So just for all the people out there that want to say that vegans live off of all of these unnatural things, I want to be very clear and state here a couple of things that are important to be stated, and things that, whether you know them or not, are important to remember and also important to know. Because if you don't know these things, you can make assumptions, first of all, and also you might not be doing optimally as a vegan if you don't see what I'm about to say. But there's all of these soy products out there in the world, and I first of all, I have no problem with soy, and specifically with organic soy. However, a lot of people make assumptions that all that vegans eat is all of these soy meats, and that they're trying to get this meat thing that they are missing as being a vegan. And one thing I can say for sure is that I can count the number of times probably that I ate what would be called a faux meat. And one time was at a restaurant in Hawaii, at a vegan restaurant. And I have never, ever had a craving for fake meats. I've eaten some veggie burgers before, but only because it was something to try. I don't like veggie burgers. I would rather have tofu. So if I'm gonna have soy, I probably want to have soy milk or tofu or tempeh. And there's probably a couple other, maybe some miso sometimes. But pretty much that's about it if I have soy. And I know what I get into my body because we buy whole foods. So I am 100% sure that I'm not accidentally getting soy from anywhere. I know that there are sometimes some products that I eat that have soy in them, like even a Cliff Bar has soy. But those are not something that I eat very often at all. In fact, almost never, even though I think they're okay to have around sometimes as an emergency food or something to have when you just want to have something quick for your kids or whatever. You're going on a hike and you just want to buy something without thinking of anything else. That's not a bad thing. But the point that I'm making here is that soy doesn't even have to be a part of your diet. But if you're going to have soy, organic soy has less of two phytoestrogens, one of them being daidzein, and I can't remember the name of the other one right now, but those two phytoestrogens, a lot of people say, are feminizing to men. And the truth of the matter is that in organic or just non-GMO soybeans, and all organic is non-GMO, keep that in mind, there's a fraction of the amount of daidzein and this other phytoestrogen. So if you eat organic soy, then you're going to do a lot better. However, all of the studies, for the most part, almost every study, there's a couple of isolated, like cherry-picked studies that have showed some kind of lower sperm count in, I forget even if it was in animals or humans, like with excessive amounts of soy, and we're talking like concentrated, isolated soy. So that being said, that isn't even something that I have to be concerned about. But that being said, also, I was fed some kind of a formula as a baby. I didn't even have milk as a baby, and knowing that I didn't even have milk as a baby, I didn't have mother's milk because of some complications at my birth. But the fact of the matter is, jaundice, for example, I ended up staying in the hospital as a result of that. But my mom was not a vegetarian. In fact, my whole mom's side of the family are hunters. They eat meat, and that is a staple in their diet. So that being said, I was fed some kind of formula. I don't know if it was soy formula or another formula. I don't have any problem with my libido. I don't have any problem as a male as a result of it. But just based upon all the scientific evidence, basically there's no strong connection at all to any feminizing properties of soy. So if we're going to talk about estrogenic compounds, you have to look at cow's food or beef or whatever dairy. You have to look at that because that has hormones in it as well. and it has, I've looked at some information on this, so I don't want to make specific references here because I don't have enough information to say that I know exactly the amounts, but there are these estrogenic and or estrogens and other hormones in animal foods as well, and I believe in a lot of cases it's actually higher than the amount that would be in soy. So just so you know, like if you're really going to make an argument against soy because of phytoestrogens that are supposed to be healthy for the heart, then you're going to have to like dig a little deeper into the other side of the equation too, and really show people the other side of that too, which probably almost nobody is talking about really at this point. But maybe we can open that up here. This is not, again, this is not a pro-vegan video. I'm definitely vegan at this time. I love animals, and I became vegan for health reasons. But just stating it again, so you know, I'm not against anybody who's eating meat, and I think there's a lot of vegans out there that are actually hurting themselves by the way that they treat people who eat meat. So what can I say? I'm going to probably just go into the next phase of this, meaning talk about the next thing, because I've been vegan all this time, and I've been doing good comparing to like the rest of the world in general. That doesn't mean I'm doing better than everybody. It doesn't mean I'm doing better than carnivores or meat eaters, whatever. It means that I'm doing very, very well physically, and that's about as far as I can say. I know for sure that I'm doing good as a vegan. I question the mental things sometimes, I really do. And not because I think that there's something wrong with me exactly, but I hear people say things and then I wonder about them, and I'm always questioning myself. But we'll get into that in a minute. The other thing that I think is important for you to realize is that there's a lot of people going to say, oh yeah, well you've only been vegan for 5 years, so just wait until like 10 years or 20 years, then you're going to really feel the pain. So I have been a vegetarian since 1996. So if I've been a vegetarian, wow, that's even longer than I thought. So since 1996, I have been a vegetarian. That means that here in 2018, it's been 22 years since I became a vegetarian. And for my first couple of years, I think I was still maybe eating eggs, but I know sometime in 2008, I stopped eating eggs. And then from there, it was about somewhere around the year 2000 that I stopped consuming cheese and other dairy. And that was as a result of finding the Sun Food Diet by David Wolfe. And basically, that book made me just want to go all the way raw vegan. So before that, though, there was like another book called The 10 Most Important Foods, and then to be noted that none of those were animal foods. And I had learned some things in there too, and that book kind of like started me on like a more healthful vegetarian diet, but I think I was still having a little bit of cheese and dairy. But anyways, 2000 comes along, stopped consuming dairy, and for most of the time from 2000 until 2007, it was very, very, very rare to have dairy, and there were long, long periods of time with none at all. And there's a reason for that, more than one, but in that time, for part of the time, for 8 months straight, my wife and I were 100% raw vegan, meaning we only ate nuts, seeds, vegetables, and fruits, and I think that's it. I mean, we didn't eat anything that was cooked at all, and it was all vegan. And then it was, and I think though we were still having honey sometimes during this time, so raw organic honey. So I guess we weren't 100% vegan, but we were for the most part vegan, and we didn't even really understand that vegan honey was like kind of like not a vegan food. So But the thing is that we had gotten in this habit of having cream sometimes with coffee, and I can say for sure that like I had this, like, I just loved that particular thing. So every once in a while, like I would buy some cream and I would make this coffee with organic cream. And to me, that was like the highlight. Or every once in a while when we were like in California or something where we knew we could get raw milk, we would have raw milk, which was very rare. Like I said, these were very rare things. And we also were under the watch of a very important vegan who is name I won't mention right now, but anyway, he is a friend of ours, but he basically was a very extreme, and still is a very extreme vegan, and a lot older than us, and you know, we believed that he was really knew what he was talking about, especially I did, and so like I didn't want to like be eating milk, you know, or having any dairy, because I knew that like probably it wasn't going to be viewed as good by him, in addition to the fact that, you know, I kind of believed that this whole plant thing was like really the way to go. I believed 100% this was the way to be healthy. So, this was all going good. A lot of good results as taking on this raw food thing. Saw a lot of health benefits as a result. And towards the end of the raw food thing, it was more about, you know, just being pretty thin. I mean, I'm right now weigh 154 pounds. And at the time that I was a raw vegan, I think I was between 125 to 140 at any given time. Like it would range a little bit, but basically I was light. And even though I was still strong, like, and I was still doing a lot of physical exercise to keep myself strong, I basically just felt like maybe it would be good to have some cooked food. And so we went into eating cooked food, and it has always been about getting like a wide range of whole foods, like less nuts and seeds now, but it used to be nuts and seeds, beans, legumes, rice, and quinoa, millet, all these different grains that were supposed to be better for you. Occasionally some kind of a pasta, but very, very rarely. And also, yeah, plenty of fruits and vegetables, always with an emphasis on like high fruits and vegetables, because we believed that those fresh things were the best for us. So in that time, you know, I was always wanting to gain a little more weight, like a little more muscle mass, and you know, I could eat as much as I wanted, and I could never get any extra weight on me. So I was actually trying to gain weight, and that's when I found the 80-10-10 diet, and somebody told me about that. So I thought, and they said basically, yeah, to gain more muscle, you know, eat more fruits and do exercise. And I was like, okay. So I read this book by Doug Graham, and I started doing more of the 80-10-10 style. And I mean, I went strict 80-10-10 for a little while, but I discovered really quickly that my teeth started to feel sensitive eating all of this fruit. And as a result of it, I just thought, you know, this just doesn't seem right to me. I don't want to take a chance with my teeth. So basically I went back to eating other whole plant-based foods that were vegan. And that being said, also, it is important to note that I did, though, during that 80-10-10 time, I started to actually gain weight. And that was by eating more fruits and creating a demand for the food by doing some kind of physical exercise. And so, and I've always done pretty intense physical exercise. So basically, that is where I started to, okay, so that's, you know, part of the whole vegan journey. But like I said, the only reason I didn't say I was 100% vegan is because there was that very occasional time from 2000 to 2007 where we were having some dairy. So fast forward to 2007, my first son was born, and I guess it was more about the time when he was closer to 2 that his top front teeth started to have some issues. And we actually saw a doctor about it, and they told it, and my wife was literally breastfeeding all the time. Like, he was our first son, and she wanted to, like, you know, make sure he was healthy. And so basically she just let him breastfeed all the time. And it was for a long period of her life too that he did this. But Long story short is that he had these teeth problems. The dentist told us that it was a result of giving him breast milk throughout the night, which was what my wife was doing. Every time he'd wake up, she'd feed him, and then he'd go back to sleep, and he'd wake up again later. And they said it was from that milk pulling into the teeth, into the gums around the top teeth. And one way or another, it was kind of a tragic experience for us, and it was very traumatic, and it made me question veganism in general. But knowing that, you know, everybody was always saying that fat-soluble vitamins and milk in general has calcium in it, which is good for your bones, and there's not really a lot of vitamin D in milk, but we associated it kind of with vitamin D too. We thought, you know what, maybe we should open back up to having some dairy. And so that wasn't, it wasn't long until pretty much there was just dairy in our refrigerator, and it was a normal thing. And it was basically just milk, and we were giving our son milk and like thinking, kind of feeling like it was an insurance policy for us, and that like as adults, as vegans, that we did perfect on a vegan diet, but that maybe it was necessary for people who were growing to have some other kind of thing besides vegan foods. So we can fast forward that along, and basically I wasn't even having a lot of dairy during that time, but it was a normal part of our life. We would have cheese once in a while, and it was all organic stuff, and a lot of times raw milk too, but most of the time grass-fed milk. And it was basically having this, it was basically just whenever we really wanted it, but it wasn't like we were having very much of it. It was just, you know, we have some milk, we have some dairy, and we didn't restrict our kid from having dairy. So as time goes on, you know, our second and third children were born, and they were having dairy, and we did a different practice with the way that we breastfed too. So they had better health of their teeth. In fact, my daughter, who is now 5, has never had any kind of teeth problem at all, and she's been a vegetarian. In fact, my 3 kids that are 11 to 5 years old have all been 100% vegetarian all their life, with a high emphasis on eating a lot of vegan foods. But they do drink organic milk, a lot of times organic raw milk from a farmer that we have a connection with here locally. And they also have had just grass-fed milk, and they have like weekly, they have like a pizza that my wife makes that has cheese on it. And then even more recently, and so that's what's been going on for a long time. They didn't even eat eggs or anything. So now, but let's just go back in time a little bit, you know, from 2007 till 2013 was having some dairy, but you know, I had gotten up in weight a little bit because I had had an accident that got me up in weight higher, and I was like wanting to lose weight, and I was also wondering about the whole vegan thing again. So I decided to go 30 days with no dairy, and 30 days led me to 5 years where I am here now. And in that time, so that's where I'm at now. So now let's just look at this whole ideology of veganism. So because I am vegan, I know that I became vegan for health reasons specifically. And along the way, I learned that I didn't really want to eat animals anymore. And I used to hunt animals, and when I did that, there was a time when I had shot a rabbit, and the rabbit made these screaming noises, and it was really hard for me, and I decided I didn't want to go rabbit hunting after that. And that was way back, a long, long time ago. So well before I was vegan, but I had already had those kind of feelings like that, you know, I just didn't know what I thought about killing animals. And so I had also had a similar experience when fishing, even though I loved to fish. It was one of my favorite things to do when I was a kid. I had had an experience fishing where I basically just felt really bad about fishing and about eating the fish. So bottom line is that now, being indoctrinated into the whole vegan way of thinking, like, it's very, very difficult for me to imagine to eat animals again. And it almost makes me mad. It's like almost like a curse on me, because some part of me would like to see what it's like, to see if all these carnivores that are talking are really getting the results that they say they're getting, and if it's really true that you can be like that healthy. So that being said, you know, if I try to imagine myself to take the life of an animal, it really makes me sad. I mean, I could cry if I really think about it. And so as a result, I'm still vegan. I'm not going to promise you that I'm always going to be vegan, because I'm really keeping my mind open, and I'm really looking at the facts, and I'm looking at my own health and the health of my family too. So that being said, staying vegan, if I change, I'm going to let you know. Now, there's the big vegan carnivore debate, and it's big. All of these people are switching from vegan to like almost purely carnivore with like a tiny bit of other foods maybe. And it's almost no other foods that they're eating. And they're claiming all these amazing, amazing health benefits. And hearing all of them say these things has really made me kind of look and say, wow, if they're really getting those results. But I dug really deep into this. And if I was you, I would dig deep into this too. And I would really look for yourself. And I would encourage you to do it, because I think it's good to kind of get the broad perspective to really see deeply into the other side, which I've always really been open to. But like I saw more deeply recently into the other side than I ever imagined that I could see. I thought I had seen everything, and I saw even more. And now what I know is that I really have a good understanding of this argument from like the extremes of the most extreme vegan, fruitarian vegan, to the all the way over to the perspective. Chili, you can walk in front of here. And and I have this perspective that it's all the way over to like the very extreme of meat eating and being a carnivore. And one thing that I can say is I remember what it felt like to first be vegan, and also to first be a raw foodist. That was a big one too. But it was this feeling like, oh my gosh, like I'm the most healthy person in the world, and this is gonna last forever, and like, wow, we figured it out. And like, no matter what, you're experiencing good changes, and as a result, like you really believe that you like have found the secret, like maybe even like the fountain of youth or whatever, and that you're going to be like now perform way better, you're going to look better, you're going to be like the most muscular you've ever been, and all these things. That's what you think as a vegan or a raw foodist. A lot of people who are vegans think that when they become that way, and it really feels that way. You really feel good for a time, and maybe as a result of cutting all of the things out that you were doing before. So I'm seeing the same thing with this whole carnivore movement, is that there's a change, and like all of the carnivores, like which is pretty much untested for the most part too, are saying that, oh yeah, this is like it, this is, never felt better in my life. But they were saying the same things when they were vegans too. And you can actually reference some of these carnivores when they were early vegans, they were saying the exact same thing. So my question is this new carnivore life energy source, is it really like something like being vegan, but only to the other extreme? And is it really like the healthful diet that people believe it is? Or are they going to find, after they've been doing it for a while, that maybe they're going to be experiencing some other effects that they didn't really feel initially, including, but maybe those effects could be that the whole lipid theory is true, and they're going to have cardiovascular issues. But at least they will know they can cure the cardiovascular issues with a vegan diet. So they could always go back. But what I'm saying is like, could it be leading to that? We don't know, because there hasn't been anybody who's been doing it for a long enough period of time. However, some people, like Shawn Baker, have been tested, and right now his cholesterol is very high, and his blood sugars are very high. And I'm not putting down Shawn Baker. I like all these people who are meat eaters too. Like, I like to hear what they have to say. I like their life experiment. And, I think all of us are looking for truth and for health. And maybe some of us have more compassion for animals than others, but that might only be because of indoctrination. But the question you have to ask yourself is, even if you are a vegan, is if you found out that as a species, that in order to thrive, or maybe even if you had kids, that in order for your kids to actually thrive and develop, that they would have to eat animals, would you consider it? And I'm only asking you if you would consider it, and I know some of you wouldn't. I have one friend that said he became vegan. He thought that it was going to be an unhealthy choice, and like now he knows that he'll never go back. And his family were farmers, and they killed pigs, and as a result, he didn't want to eat meat anymore. So, that might be you. And I understand that, and I respect that 100%. And I'm still there as a vegan right now, but like I said, I haven't made my final decision now. I'm really looking into this even more in depth. And if any of you want to make comments about that or share anything, please do, whether it be positive or negative. About this whole vegan thing, there are some people that you're going to find very quickly who are talking about vegans being like weak and malnourished and just the epitome of no health. And some of them even saying that you cannot get vitamin A in the plant form, even though it's beta carotene, which everybody who's vegan and most people who aren't know, plant form of vitamin A is beta carotene, or carotenoids. But the bottom line is that there is an excessive amount of vitamin A in plant foods, and even if you don't convert your vitamin A optimally, it's my understanding that you don't have to worry about vitamin A at all on a plant-based diet. But some people are saying that you can't even convert the plant form of vitamin A to vitamin A. They're saying that you have to have fat-soluble vitamins to survive. And I'm definitely proof, as are other healthy vegans, that you can live as a vegan and be healthy. And you don't have to eat a bunch of junk food, and you don't have to be like a stereotypical version of a vegan that kind of these people have created. Because and maybe that's the kind of vegans they were, but I don't even know vegans that are like most of the vegans that the people in these videos are talking about. Most of the vegans I know are healthy people. So, knowing all of these things, I leave it up to you to decide for yourself what you think is best. But this is my 5-year vegan journey, and like I said, I'm proof that you can be vegan. And I guess I do want to say another thing before we conclude here, and that is that this whole idea of mental health, there has been something I've questioned on a vegan diet, and that is, would I be more healthy, and would I thrive, and would my kids thrive more even if they weren't vegetarians? I've asked myself that question, and I really do wonder that. And I have to be honest in saying that it's made me so curious. In fact, recently I lost some weight intentionally, and as a result of that, I was really hungry sometimes, and I was watching some of these videos of the carnivores, and for the first time since I have been a vegan, I actually looked at these meat foods, and I thought, oh man, I wonder if I do need those. There was actually something in me that remembered the taste and the feeling of those things, and thought, oh, maybe that's good for me. And it might be. However, there's a lot of things that are associations from my past that sometimes I crave that are not necessarily good for me. And one of those things is marijuana, for example. So I'm not here to put down marijuana either, but I did use it for a good while in my life, and I haven't for a long time now. And I don't feel like it would be good for me to jump back into that. So what I'm saying is that just because maybe I have these memories, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's because it's good for me. But I have questioned, wow, could I gain more muscle mass, could I be even stronger than I am now? Could I perform better? And another thing I've really questioned is, could my skin be better? And the biggest question I've had is, would my mental health be overall better? Because, I hear these other vegans saying, they couldn't even work, they couldn't do anything as a vegan. And, sometimes, I wonder if I would be better off, if I would have a better mental state if I wasn't vegan. And I'm not saying that my mental state is bad now, because I don't really have anything to compare to. But I've wondered about it. So I'm just being fair with my answers here. And I also want to be very clear that some people say, I know I'm going further into this, so do you want to hear more? Well, if you've got this far, you probably do. So here's the last thing before I conclude, is that some vegans say that if you just eat, that if you become vegan, basically, that you can eat all the carbohydrates you want, and that you'll never have to worry about your weight again, and that you'll lose weight as a vegan, and that you can basically just, you know, eat as much as you want, you know, and that you really won't have to worry about gaining weight, and that you can't become fat, for example, eating high carbohydrates. And this is my answer to that. First of all, people who are very obese, I would say probably could benefit from a vegan diet for weight loss for a good while. I would think that it would be good for most people. In fact, I think a strict plant-based vegan diet would be very good for people who are obese to follow at least minimum for a period of time. And I think that you would achieve great weight loss on a vegan diet for a long period. And then you might have to try something else beyond just changing your diet. One thing I have learned, and I have now proven for a fact, is that you can't lose weight just by changing the things that you eat. Maybe a little bit, but that's mostly not what it's about. And I know this for a fact. I was feeling like I was overweight. I was weighing 164. Right now I'm at 154. But I weighed 164 to 170 or more for like a good part of a couple years. And I was trying to get that off for a long time. And I kept on thinking, you know, I tried all kinds of different things. As a vegan, eating a healthy diet, just changing little things, thinking, oh, maybe this might help and this might help. And none of those things helped. And I was consuming an immense amount of calories, thinking I'm a strong person, I need this food, and I wanted to gain weight for a long time. So it was kind of like this habit I was in. But I always liked food, and I've really enjoyed eating. So to me, it was just about like, yeah, as much food as I can get in me, and then, you know, I can work out and, you know, perform better. But like, so I cut back a little bit. I tried, you know, a little bit of intermittent fasting, the intermittent fasting had some effect, but there's more to it than that. So basically, if you go vegan, I would try to just eat the most healthful foods as you can, and eat enough for sure, but realize that if you eat more than you need, you're going to gain weight on a vegan diet, even on a high carbohydrate vegan diet. If you're sedentary and you're not, and you're eating more food than you need, then you're going to gain weight. So now to conclude, what's next? That is the question. And I have some thoughts about that, but I'm not quite there. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video for now, and we will see what's next as the journey moves on. So, God bless you. Thank you for watching this. You must really like me if you made it all the way through this video. And I appreciate it. Thanks so much. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And as long as we're doing the YouTube thing, then if you enjoyed this video and liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, then, or I should say, give it a thumbs down if nothing that I said was true. And subscribe to the channel if you like. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Sai, and I will see you again soon.